Right, so today we're talking about microwave ovens. These are a little bit more subtle and not as intense as cleaning an actual single oven. You will see one of my other videos, single oven clean, and you'll notice the difference between the two straight away. There's quite a lot of difference between the structure. There's a lot of difference between the way it's cleaned. As you can see, this is quite a simple setup. You have got the tray mount here. This is actually in one of the bottom drawers. I can show you in a few moments, but you've got the glass plate in the bottom, so we instantly need to remove the glass plate. There's a little bit of clouding and grease and whatnot on here. This actually goes in the dip tank. I'll show you that in a few moments, as there is a safe way to do this. So I'll pop this to the side for a minute. You see we've got the bezel in the bottom. This is just basically the roller for the plate, and we've actually got the plate turntable in the bottom which clips in. When you put these back, it's quite important that you have got the flat edge, so it's almost like a full circle with a flat edge on the bottom. It's really important when you put it back in the oven, you don't push down hard, you just need to turn it gently until it finds its seat, and you'll notice it'll just drop into position by itself, he says. There you go. Okay. So once you've removed all the internals on the oven, it's quite straightforward. Unlike with a single oven, normally the single ovens have a backing plate that can be removed, and that enables you to get to the fan to clean it. Unfortunately, these ones are all fixed units and everything's a little bit more solid. This doesn't affect the way it's cleaned. There is quite small gaps between the fan itself and the backing plate, so there's very little chance that the fan is going to get dirty over a short space of time. So we're going to go and tackle the bottom of the oven and the sides first. And the way to do this is with degreaser. You can't use anything too harsh, but when it comes to any charring, which is quite rare in the microwave ovens due to the type of cooking you are doing in there, we're gonna use the degreaser now to try and break it all down. And should it be in a worse condition, I will show you the product then that you'll need to tackle that. So we're going to want to put our mask on, and we're going to want to put our goggles and our gloves on for this bit. The chemical, again, is quite harsh. You don't really want to breathe it in. So I'm going to leave the link in the description below for the degreaser. This is a very good chemical. You don't need a great deal of the neat mixture. You need about 3 pumps out of a 5 litre tub into the rest part water. You top up the water to the line, so you end up with a little bit of degreaser in the bottom, and the rest gets topped up to this line with water. So we're going to give it a nice even coat. Again, you haven't got to get trigger happy. You are only looking to do a fine mist of the degreaser over everything. So we're going to spray that. We're going to do the same on the door. This particular door is in quite great condition, so we're going to spray it over. We're going to spray it over the glass, and we're going to let that settle for about 10 minutes to break through everything. Okay, so that's had about 10 minutes now to settle, and what we'll find is a lot of this is already rubbing off my fingers, so we're not going to worry too much about that right now. What I want to talk to you about is when it comes to the door glass, sometimes you get a lot of stubborn stains on these, and what you find is over time, the grease will coat and it'll bake, and it'll coat and it'll bake, and you actually end up with quite a thick crust of grease. So one of the only ways really that you can tackle that with a glass blade. So this is a slightly larger glass blade to what we would normally use. Normally we've got one which is half the size, but as this is just a plain flat panel surface, we're actually going to use this one today. So all you have to do, you hold it at a 45-degree angle, and you just push it forward motion only. This eliminates you having to scratch the glass. When you go back and forward with the blade, you find that it's a lot easier to catch these edges on the glass, and you get a lot of scratches on the glass. So we're just going to go in the forward motion there, just to remove any blemishes, any surface grease that may be left on there. And then once we've done that, we're going to give it a very quick wipe over, just to remove any of the loose dirt that we removed there. And we're going to get right down in the hinge here. Now, sometimes you can get breadcrumbs, you can get, chips, baked chips and things like that, all sorts of food that will fall down in here. And one of the ways to remove that is with a hard brush. Now, believe it or not, this is actually a alloy wheel valeting brush. Now this one is from Autoclim, so again, I will pop it in the link below, because there's a lot of these brushes on the market, and they haven't quite got these strong bristles. The good thing about these is you can see the bristles are pretty solid. When they're too soft, they bend before they can get in the hinges properly, and they can't get in the gaps. So the reason I like these strong bristles here is you can actually manipulate them a lot better. So you can get them right down in the hinge, everything flicks forward. So what I try and do is I get in all the little gaps that you can't get in with a cloth, all these little gaps under here. It's great for cleaning in the little vents, you know, all these little holes and vents, because the bristles pretty much force themselves into these gaps without you having to push them in too hard. So we're just going to brush everything from the outer part of the hinge to the middle. So you brush it all to the middle, get all the bits and all the loose debris out there, and then what I tend to do is I grab my fingers in the cloth here and I pinch at the middle and remove all the bits. And one of the last things then, you rub the cloth across and it'll remove any of the last remaining little bits of debris in there. And you can quite simply shake the cloth off on the floor, because again, we're doing top to bottom cleaning in this room. Once the oven's been cleaned, we're going to hoover the floor anyway, so it's not a problem to just flick all the bits. You haven't got to be too concerned about making a mess on the floor. We have put a protective sheet down as an extra precaution, but that's mainly to protect the floor surface from any of the chemicals that may drip on the floor. So this oven door's looking pretty good now. Obviously we'll get to the exterior in a minute. You can see there's a lot of, you know, blemishes and streaking, but again, slightly different process for that. So what we're going to do is now we're going to wipe out the interior, and as you can see, everything is just wiping off effortlessly. So there's a couple of marks at the back here, you can see, where the greaser hasn't quite removed. You can see the state of the cloth. That's all the grease that is coming off from the inside of this oven. So I'm just going to give this a quick wipe over. There's a couple of marks at the back which haven't quite removed. Now you haven't necessarily got to go and respray it and wait another 10 minutes. What you can do, the chances are that it is breaking down, the degreaser is breaking it down. It just needs a little bit of encouragement. So we're just going to fold up the non-scratch scourer, and we're going to very, very lightly rub over those parts. Now they're flying off, so as I said, you haven't got to go back through the process of waiting 10 minutes. You can just very lightly rub over it with a green scourer, and then repeat the process. Wipe it out with your nice dry clean cloth, and then we're going to go around the frame, around the outside frame there, and as you can see now, that's absolutely spotless. So one of the things, when they are really bad and when they are in a pretty bad shape, what you want to do is you want to have a bucket on hand, and all you need to do is pop a little bit of dish detergent in there, fill it up with some hot water, just get some, you know, lathering of the bubbles, and then when that's there, you can use the cloth, dip it in, wring it out. You can actually use it then, it will remove things a little bit easier because you've got the warm water in there. You're also making sure that when there is a massive build-up of dirt, again, you don't want to end up spreading the dirt around with the same cloth and the same chemical. You're just making life a lot harder for yourself. Whereas when you've got some detergent on hand in a bucket, you can wring it out, refresh, you know, the cloth you're using, wipe some more out, dip it in, refresh it, and just repeat that process, and it makes life a lot easier when it comes to removing everything out of the oven. So that's gleaming. We're not going to do anything with that. I haven't actually got to finish that off with the glass cleaner. As I've said before in my previous videos, sometimes you get a few blemishes, you'll get a few streaks, and you will want to finish off with a bit of glass cleaner, give it a buff. When you've got your aluminiums or your chrome finishes or shiny, you know, enamels, it does actually help to have some glass cleaner on hand. But in this instance, as it's in great condition, I'm not going to waste my time to do that. So we're going to close that door up now. On the outside, slightly different. You will sometimes get really heavy grease on you, and again, you want to use your blade. Make sure it's a 45-degree angle. Don't overlap it onto the aluminium. You're going to risk scratching it, and once that's scratched, it's game over. But what we're going to do is, this particular oven's in pretty good condition, as I keep saying, and we're going to give it a quick spray over with a glass cleaner. I'm going to get the bucket out of the way. We don't need that anymore. So as you can see with these buttons, if you push them, they will protrude, so you're not going to want to do that, because as you're trying to rub it, they just basically get in the way. So push everything back in so everything's flush, and you can just rub straight over everything here. You may have a slightly different setup. Some microwave ovens, you will have the knobs that don't push into the unit, in which case you can actually pull them off. Just be sure that when they come off, you don't lose the little clips inside the handles, and it's much the same on the handles that actually do remove. It's the same as inside with the plates. They have got a circle with a flat bottom, so you just want to make sure that when you fit them back on, you're not forcing them on, you're fitting them back on properly with that flat edge. So you can see the top panel's looking pretty good now, and we're going to go and get right down into the handle. You're going to find where people are opening and closing this and they've been cooking and preparing food, you are going to sometimes get really grubby marks under here, and you're going to feel it when you grab the handle. So we're going to give that a good buff. Make sure both the underside and the top of the handle has had a good wipe, and then we're going to wipe everything over here. Again, once you've wiped over, this side of the cloth is going to be wet, so you're going to want to turn it over, refold it so you've got a nice clean dry edge, and then you're going to go in for the buff. So just go in for the last buff, finishing touch, and you can see this now is like a mirror, absolutely pristine. Okay, and last but not least, now we've done the exterior of our oven, we've done the internal walls, we've done the backing plate, the sides, the roof, the door, everything's looking good. One of the very last things to do then, we need to refit our internal plate. So as I said, you have got that flat edge. It's really important you get this right. If you jam this in the wrong way, you're not going to get your turn, and you're going to have to put this other little piece. Just make sure everything fits together and it's rotating. And as I said, when it comes to the plate, we're going to want to refit this once it's been in the dip tank, as I showed you in between the clips. And then once that's done, we're going to want to refit the plate. Just make sure again it fits into the clasp, and it's a little bit grubby there where we've got some powder from some of the latex gloves when we were doing the dip tanking. So I'm going to give that a very quick glass clean around. There you go. And that's absolutely spot on and ready to go. So thanks very much for watching, guys. Subscribe below, put your comments in, let me know what you think of the videos. I'm trying my best to gain as much value for you guys as possible, so just let me know your thoughts and keep an eye out for my next video.